The current movie selection on Netflix is so thin, even YouTube has a better movie lineup this month, and they're all free to watch for a limited time. In fact, I've never seen this many top-notch flicks available for free in one place ever. So many that each flick on this top 10 list of visually stunning movies comes with a bonus recommendation, which means we've got 20 drop-dead gorgeous flicks to get to in under 20 minutes.
You think you know what's coming? You don't have a clue.
Robin Williams played a creep several times in his career, but his creepiest performance has got to go to one of his most underrated flicks, 1 Hour Photo. If you remember the days before digital cameras, you would take your film to be developed, sometimes at a 1 hour photo processing place. In this movie, Robin Williams develops photos at one of these places, but when he's not on the clock, he's got something kind of creepy going on he's doing with these photos. If that's not creepy enough, he takes a liking to one family in particular, mostly based off of their photos. His performance is just phenomenal in this movie. They gave him this pale hair and blue eyes, and then his performance is just really creepy on top of it. It's also a pretty interesting movie. It's got kind of an Alfred Hitchcock vibe, but one with quite a bit more polish that's even more eye-popping. They've got David Fincher's Zodiac currently available for free, a movie that I'll admit I was not in love with when I first saw it. My expectations were that it was going to be sort of like a spiritual sequel to Seven, and that's really not what this movie is. I mean, yes, it's a murder investigation movie directed by David Fincher, but there's a lot more going on here I didn't tap into when I originally saw this movie. Aside from the killer cinematography, the movie is kind of a visual trip back in time as well. It also features some standout performances, like Robert Downey Jr.'s role in this movie. It's one of my favorites from him. Created horror movie remakes is the 1988 remake of The Blob. The original from the 50s stars Steve McQueen, and is kind of a fun, campy throwback, but this 80s remake is literally oozing with like 1980s charm. It's got the synth music, the neon lights, the crazy hair, and like I said, gobs and gobs of practical effects, a lot of them just still eye-popping to this day. And the movie's just not appreciated today the way I think it should be. If you like that kind of uber 80s vibe, the vibe you get off of Stranger Things, this movie is loaded with it, as well as, tons of gore and all that fun stuff. Another one, Jennifer's Body, another movie that's just not just underrated, but also misunderstood. While this movie is a horror movie that's got some scares in it, it's also a satire that honestly lays it on pretty thick. Thick in a charming way that, again, I think audiences just did not connect with back when this originally released. But Jennifer's Body has gone on to become kind of a cult classic that is, I think, loved a lot more today than it was originally. Even if you saw it back when it released, I'm telling you, this one may be well worth revisiting.
I will finish you if I have to. Okay. You can barely finish gym class.
One of Michael Bay's more underrated movies, The Island. While this is not a direct remake of Logan's Run, it's essentially stealing the same story and applying it in almost the exact same way. Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson star in this. Again, they're in this futuristic society, and then they realize there's a lot more going on outside the walls of this, strictly run world they live in. And I mean, it's a PG-13 romp with loads of Michael Bay action, just, unhinged action where the camera never stops moving. It's not the most nuanced style of filmmaking, but it is a fun, wild ride, and I think The Island kind of went criminally underrated when it released and is still underappreciated today.
You still think there's an island?
On a somewhat similar note, another just total stunner with a bunch of sci-fi and supernatural stuff is Legion. Even though this one is also packed with real practical effects, they do take a back seat to loads and loads of CGI, but this one centers around this apocalyptic war, almost like a Book of Revelations type thing, done in a comic book fashion. But you can currently watch Batman Gotham Knight for free on YouTube. If you've never heard of this, it is a collection of short animated films. Each one, Batman's fighting a different villain. They're kind of like their own comic book. What's cool about this is they're all done in a different animation style. Some of them really breathtaking. Some of them also revolve around different sightings of Batman, and so he's animated in these different ways as people describe him. Really cool stuff in there for Batman fans. If this looks familiar, you may recall they did something very similar for The Matrix when the sequels originally came out. It was titled The Animatrix. That is also included for free on YouTube right now, currently here in the US anyway. Same exact concept, stories around the Matrix, different interactions with it, different animation styles, all of them breathtaking, really cool soundtrack to the Animatrix as well. Even if you only like the first and original movie, I still highly recommend checking out the Animatrix. And it's still vastly underappreciated despite the stacked cast and stunning presentation of Appaloosa. This stars Ed Harris. He also wrote and directed this movie. Viggo Mortensen plays his compadre in this movie, and like I said, visually stunning Western. It's got kind of a beautiful story, bit of a love story that I feel like stretches out a little too much, kind of keeps this movie from being, pitch perfect. Like a movie like Unforgiven, but it's in a similar territory and just has not been remembered and appreciated as much as movies like Unforgiven or Tombstone, yet I think the quality is damn near equal.
You afraid to die?
I ain't afraid.
Good, because you go first.
A just knock down, drag out, shoot 'em up, gangster/western movie. Yes, it's both things at the same time. It's totally awesome. Yes, it is a loose adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, but then again, so was Fistful of Dollars. Obviously, Bruce Willis is a badass, but also Christopher Walken is just maniacal as all get out in this movie. Just a lot of cool stuff in this movie. If you love shootouts, just don't expect to see a whole lot of reloading in this movie because there ain't much.
Nothing personal.
A genre that his brother Ridley was already a legend with Alien and Blade Runner. But in 2006, Tony Scott released one of his last movies, Deja Vu, which is one of the more nuanced time travel movies ever released. Now, yes, it does have a fair amount of action in it, but the way time travel works in this movie is a bit more grounded and it feels a bit more realistic as a result. Now, the science of it, you could argue about that all day, but the way it's presented in Deja Vu makes it feel like this top secret government asset that's actually being used and implemented to help retroactively solve a crime. So there's even touches of like Minority Report in there, but this is Tony Scott at his most unhinged visual style. The style he brought to movies like Domino and Man on Fire. Same style here, and I absolutely love it. If that is not enough Tony Scott or Denzel for you, they also have Crimson Tide free to watch on YouTube right now. I'd even mention Eraser in a somewhat similar genre to Deja Vu. It's not that closely related, but it's a wild, fun Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that just does not hardly ever get mentioned, and I love that movie. It's so fun to watch. To bring back 1980s ninja movies with Ninja Assassin.
Never forget who you are.
A movie that was not only panned by critics, but also not very well received by mass audiences when it released, but it has gone on to develop a cult following, and there's a very good reason for that. Ninja Assassin is a totally badass movie that makes way too much use of CGI blood. Similar to 300, they basically just go overboard with it in this movie in a stylistic choice. The action, the fighting, and the gore in Ninja Assassin is extremely stylized, and some of the sequences, for my taste, are maybe a bit too dark, where it's really difficult to tell what's going on. Still, this is a completely awesome movie that I think people just didn't connect with and they overlooked. It's well worth revisiting, especially today. Movies have made so much use of CGI blood. I feel like we're much more used to it as a style choice. Even though it's not my favorite, Ninja Assassin makes up for it for just being an all-gas, no-brakes ninja movie. I think this is actually kind of a cool movie, especially since it stars Timothy Olyphant. He's much more famous now than when this came out. And it's really cool that he's in this kind of silly, over-stylized Hitman movie. If you don't know, Hitman's based on a video game series, and the movie feels like a rated R video game movie. I'm not sure what else we were supposed to get out of this. Yes, I get it. It could have been cooler. You could say that about a lot of movies, but to go back and revisit this one and kind of turn your brain off could be a fun time. Following their success with Menace to Society, the Hughes brothers wanted to push the hood flick genre to new limits by adding Vietnam stories, a heist element, and one of the most legendary soundtracks of all time to Dead Presidents. Just a real gem of a movie, even though it does deal with some pretty heavy subject matter. There's a lot going on in this movie, and it also has a pretty incredible cast. But the story revolves heavily around some black Vietnam War vets and the things they were dealing with after the war. Now, there are some war sequences in Dead Presidents, but the movie's much more about the post-traumatic stress they're going through afterwards, even though I don't believe that phrase is mentioned once in this movie. But ultimately, some of the main characters turn to crime, and there goes your heist element. So there's a lot going on with this movie, yet it's got a nice, even, refined feel, some top-notch performances, including what is probably, honestly, like Chris Tucker's best performance. If you didn't know, there's major talks right now. There's going to be a sequel to this movie. DiCaprio is in talks to star in that. I mean, you know, Michael Mann's writing and directing could be amazing stuff, even if it's not. Heat is still one of, if not the greatest movie in the cops and robbers movie genre. And then we talked about Robin Williams' creepy role in 1 Hour Photo, but his saddest movie and also his most visually stunning is also free on YouTube right now, What Dreams May Come. I mean, if you've never seen it, this one is just the definition of a stunning movie. Beautiful paintings literally come to life in this movie, but it is also just a terribly, terribly sad movie. I actually remember seeing this in the movie theater with my mother. My goodness, what a mistake. Like, so sad. We're talking dead children at the beginning of the story, a suicidal wife. It's horrific stuff, but it's because most of this movie actually takes place in the afterlife. Robin Williams also the victim of a tragic accident. Again, like I said, downer of a movie, but the depiction of heaven is breathtaking in What Dreams May Come. Incredible sort of adventure story that unfolds in heaven. And then the depiction of hell is like equally as stunning. Just an incredible movie. It does deal with heavy, heavy issues though, so make sure you're prepared for Pan's Labyrinth. Obviously a beautiful movie. This one's mostly beautiful in its production design, the sets, the incredible costumes and practical effects. All sorts of amazing fantasy stuff comes to life, and it's mostly in camera in this movie, which is just absolutely incredible. It too deals with pretty heavy themes. For a free emo newsletter there, I send one out every single Friday. I give you a handful of movie recommendations. Things I've watched recently, like new releases, I haven't talked about here on YouTube yet. The website's also the only place you can get these shirts, but my number one pick is the Steve McQueen Classic Papillon. Now, this is my number one pick for several reasons. One, it's an amazing movie, but due to its age, it is fairly slow-paced. It's a beautiful movie that depicts horrific conditions. You're following prisoners in this movie in a tropical paradise. So the movie itself is just eye-popping. I mean, there's so many sequences set in the jungle in this movie that are just beautiful the way they filmed them. And then the other half of the movie is kind of filmed in this confined squalor of these prisons. But you get an amazing performance from Steve McQueen, like one of my favorites of his, and it's obviously reminiscent of The Great Escape. There are a bunch of escape sequences in Papillon. But you've also got a great role from Dustin Hoffman, and, you know, from its era, it stands out as just kind of a great achievement of filmmaking.
Make no pretense at rehabilitation here. We're not priests, we're processors. A meat packer processes live animals into edible ones. We process dangerous men into harmless ones.
Same era. It was released just 2 years prior William Friedkin's The French Connection, a movie I have rewatched very recently. It is still as visually stunning as I remember the first time I saw it. It's down and dirty and grungy, almost has like a documentary feel, but it puts you down on the street, on the beat, on these investigations, and that's because they largely filmed a bunch of these sequences guerrilla style, meaning they're driving through actual traffic, they're creating illegal traffic jams, and the energy behind the filmmaking process in The French Connection comes to life on the screen in just an amazing way. I love watching and recommending this movie.